There is one ability that completely changed the course of human history. It allowed us to master fire, build cities, create science, decode DNA, explore space, and ask questions that no other species has ever been capable of asking. We call it intelligence. But what does it really mean to be intelligent? Are some people simply born different? Or is intelligence far more connected to the way we think than to the amount of knowledge we accumulate? For more than a century, psychologists, neuroscientists, and researchers have been trying to answer that question. And the more they studied it, the more they realized the answer was far less obvious than it seemed. When we think about intelligence, most of us picture someone who learns everything quickly, someone who gets excellent grades, solves difficult mathematical problems, or possesses an extraordinary memory. That image has become so familiar, it almost feels like common sense. But modern psychology tells a different story. Imagine two people. The first has memorized hundreds of facts. The second asks a question no one has ever thought to ask. Which one is more intelligent? The answer isn't as straightforward as it seems, because intelligence has never been just about accumulating knowledge. It also involves interpreting, connecting ideas, questioning assumptions, imagining possibilities, solving problems no one has faced before, and seeing opportunities that remain invisible to most people. Imagine walking into the largest library in the world, millions of books, information about almost everything imaginable. Now imagine someone else, who knows fewer facts, but can connect completely unrelated ideas and discover a solution that no one else has considered. Who possesses more knowledge? Probably the first person, who is more likely to solve a completely new problem. Not necessarily. Knowledge is incredibly valuable. But intelligence goes one step further. It's the ability to use what we know, to understand what we don't. That's why memorizing answers doesn't necessarily mean understanding a problem. At the beginning of the 20th century, scientists began developing ways to measure cognitive abilities. That's how intelligence tests were born. They represented a remarkable scientific breakthrough, but they also created a misleading impression. The idea that a single number could summarize a person's entire intellectual potential. Decades of research have shown that reality is far more complex. Intelligence tests measure important aspects of reasoning, but they can't fully capture creativity, curiosity, wisdom, adaptability, or the ability to solve problems that have never existed before. Intelligence is real. It can be studied. Certain aspects can even be measured, but it remains far more complex than any single score could ever represent. For many years, researchers believed that highly intelligent people simply had larger brains, or far more neurons. But as neuroscience advanced, a much more fascinating picture began to emerge. The difference wasn't simply about quantity, it was about the way different regions of the brain work together. Thinking doesn't happen in one isolated part of the mind. It emerges from the communication between multiple brain networks responsible for attention, memory, language, planning, impulse control, and decision-making. The more efficiently those networks integrate information, the greater our ability to solve complex problems tends to become. Intelligence begins to look less like a single trait, and more like an extraordinarily efficient conversation between billions of neurons. Perhaps there is one characteristic shared by nearly every great breakthrough in human history. It can't be measured by an exam, and it never appears on a diploma. It begins with a question. Why? How? What if? Interestingly, researchers have found that highly productive thinkers often share an unusual desire to understand how things work. They're rarely satisfied with the first answer. They keep asking, investigating, questioning, as though every answer simply opens the door to an even bigger question. And it is precisely that curiosity that fuels one of the most extraordinary abilities of the human brain, the ability to keep learning. But there's an even more fascinating discovery. Curiosity alone doesn't explain why some people consistently see solutions, where others see only obstacles. There's another mechanism quietly operating inside the brain. one that shapes how we organise information, make decisions, generate new ideas, and solve problems. Perhaps the real difference has never been thinking more, but thinking differently. Imagine a city, millions of people, thousands of streets, hundreds of intersections. Now imagine every one of those connections working together in perfect harmony. The human brain works in much the same way. Thinking doesn't depend on a single region. Every decision is the result of an enormous conversation between different brain networks responsible for attention, memory, language, imagination, and planning. Brain imaging research suggests that people who perform better across a wide range of cognitive tasks tend to have more efficient communication between these networks. It's not about having a special brain. It's about how effectively different parts of the brain work together to integrate complex information. There is one ability that appears again and again in studies of human reasoning. It's called working memory, despite its name. It doesn't function like a storage cabinet. Think of it as a mental workspace. It's the temporary space where the brain keeps information active while comparing possibilities, evaluating consequences, or searching for solutions. The more efficient this system is, the easier it tends to be to deal with complex problems. That doesn't mean remembering everything. In fact, many brilliant people forget appointments, important dates, or where they left their keys. The real advantage lies in the ability to mentally organise multiple pieces of information at the same time. There is another quality found in nearly every major scientific breakthrough: the willingness to abandon an idea when it no longer makes sense. Our brains naturally try to conserve energy. Once they settle on an explanation, they tend to hold on to it. But people with flexible thinking often do the opposite. They test, they revise, they change strategies, they embrace new evidence. In psychology, this ability is known as cognitive flexibility. It allows us to find new solutions to old problems in a world that's constantly changing. It may be one of the most valuable skills we can ever develop. Interestingly, one of the most consistent traits found among highly productive thinkers isn't a high IQ score. It's curiosity. Curiosity asks questions, where other people see ready-made answers. It turns the unknown into an invitation. Whenever we learn something new, brain circuits involved in motivation and reward become active. That's why discovering an answer can feel so satisfying. Curiosity fuels learning, and learning expands our ability to understand the world. It's a cycle that continuously reinforces itself. There's a fascinating paradox. The more we learn, the more we realise how much we still don't know. Perhaps that's why so many experts often respond by saying, "We don't have enough evidence yet," or simply, "We don't know." That's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of scientific rigour. Real knowledge rarely eliminates every uncertainty. Instead, it helps us ask better questions. Over the years, many myths have emerged about highly intelligent people. That they struggle to connect with others, that they never have fun, that they suffer more than everyone else, or that they're always successful. Research doesn't support these ideas as universal truths. Intelligence may improve certain types of reasoning, but it doesn't eliminate emotional challenges. It doesn't guarantee happiness, nor does it guarantee professional success. Our lives are shaped by countless factors: education, health, personality, opportunity, relationships, environment. Intelligence is only one part of that story. Perhaps psychology's most remarkable discovery about highly intelligent people is surprisingly simple. They don't see a different world. They simply tend to look at the same world in a different way. They question more. They explore more possibilities. They're willing to revise their conclusions. They connect ideas. They never stop learning. And they understand that changing your mind in light of new evidence isn't a defeat, it's growth. Perhaps intelligence isn't a destination reserved for a gifted few, but a collection of skills that every one of us can continue developing throughout life. Every book we read, every meaningful conversation, every new experience, every question asked with genuine curiosity, each one reshapes the brain. Because learning quite literally changes the way we think. There's a quote attributed to the Greek philosopher Socrates that has endured for more than 2,000 years. "I know that I know nothing. more than an expression of humility. It captures the spirit behind every great pursuit of knowledge, the understanding that there is always something new waiting to be discovered. And perhaps that's what makes intelligence so fascinating. It doesn't end when we find an answer. It begins the moment we ask the next question.